Welcome to the Retire with Peace podcast, the podcast where we help you create a fulfilling and stress-free retirement. Each week, we bring you expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you plan and live your best retirement life. Whether you're nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Let's embark on this journey together and discover how to retire with peace.
Welcome back to the Retire with Peace podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave Zaegel, and today we get to talk about the Rule of 72. If you haven't heard of this one, it's an interesting one. It's just a math problem, really. So if you're not great at math, don't worry. I'll try to make this as simple as we can so that way you can understand what the Rule of 72 is. The Rule of 72 helps us easily understand how long it's going to take for us to double our money when we are investing it. And I'll explain why that's a little bit more of a focus for us and how we're handling retirement planning a little bit later. But let's talk about what the Rule of 72 is. And that is, if you take 72 and divide a number into it, that will tell you how long it's going to take for you to double your money. So you have 72, and you have a rate of return, and you have time. Those are the three pieces. So let's say you want to double your money in 9 years. Great. 72 divided by 9 is 8. That's really clean. So 8 tells you the rate of return that you will need each year. So hang with me here if you're not great at math. Again, 72 divided by 9 equals 8. If we want to double our money in 9 years, we're going to need an 8% annual return in order to do so. Let's flip that around. Let's say we are able to get a 7% return each year. We're going to solve now for the length of time. So we're going to take 72 divided by 7. You're going to get something just over 10. I don't know what the decimal point is, but you're going to get something just over 10 years. And that's a nice, comfortable guide to tell you how long is it going to take for me to double this amount of money, depending on the rate of return that we're able to get on the investment. One thing to be clear on in this is that, great, we've solved for the rate of return. We've said that if we get an 8% return each year, we're going to double our money in 9 years. Done. Got it. Let's do it. Well, if only it were that simple. We're not going to get 8% in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. We're not going to get a steady 8% every single year. So we have to understand that the average rate of return is probably going to need to be a little bit higher than that, because when you have, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, but when you have a lot of volatility, or if you have a poor sequence of returns where the early years are particularly bad, you're actually going to need a higher average rate of return. So the less volatility you have, the closer it can be to that percentage that you just calculated. And the smoother the returns, I guess, is the more layman's way to say this. The smoother the returns are year over year, the closer it's going to match up to that average annual return that you just calculated. So don't think, oh, great, all I need to do is get 8% year after year after year after year. It'll be perfect. Double it in 9 years. In practicality, that's not how that works. There is no investment that I'm aware of that just sends you 8% every year. In fact, there's lots of people that went to jail promising that, and then they turned out to be Ponzi schemes. So just to let you know, that doesn't actually happen. You don't just get 8% guaranteed every single year. It can happen. Absolutely anything's possible, but I would never say that's guaranteed. That'd be kind of crazy. So just understand that there's going to be some volatility and variability in those rates of return over that time period. Don't just think, oh, great, I'll get 8% and 9 years from now it'll double. Done. Perfect. Not that straightforward, but this Rule of 72 gives us a conceptual framework that is close so we can understand over what period is my money going to double based on the rate of return that I get. So again, the easy numbers are 8 and 9 because that multiplies into uh, 72. So if you get a 9% return, it's going to take you 8 years. If you get an 8% return, it's going to take you 9 years. If you get a 7% return, it's going to take you just over 10 years, and so on down the line as we divide this number into 72. Now, why is that important conceptually to understand how long it's going to take to double our money? Well, if you listen to our podcast, I'm going to do the broken record thing again. We talk about having, guess how many years? 5 years worth of individual bonds and structured notes and cash for income. So that way, the rest of the money can be focused on growth. Why 5 years? Because when we've seen other market downturns like 2008, the Great Depression, the tech bubble, just name them all, they came back in about 5 years roughly. So if you give yourself 5 years for the growth investments to come back and know that you have the income investments in terms of bonds, structured notes, cash, CDs, safe stuff, giving you this income regardless of what the market is doing, you can let the market-based investments, the stocks, the mutual funds, the exchange-traded funds, you can leave those alone when the market's down because you have this other income coming in from bonds, structured notes, cash, CDs. You can let this other investment bucket grow over time. So we can look at this other investment bucket and say, I do not care what's going to happen in the stock market next week or next month, or maybe even in the next year, because we are focused exclusively on making sure that this bucket grows. And to be even more specific, I want to look at this bucket and say, can I double this in the next 10 years? If I can get something close to a 7% annualized rate of return over the next 10 years, fantastic, because that means the income was covered through bonds, structured notes, cash. We had all that covered. Can we take this other chunk of money and make that double? And I know we'll still need some of that money in years 5 through 10 in this example to provide some income. But man, if I can have this focus on how do I grow this money, how do I get it to double in 10 years, that winds up being a fantastic retirement plan because we've already got this income. We're not taking some crazy risk to get this bucket to double. We're taking some risk and focusing on long-term growth, but we're not taking a crazy amount of risk because we've already pulled out at least 5 years of income from the market to live on and make sure that that is solid. That allows the rest of it to grow. And we can use this rule of 72 to think, okay, what do I need to do to make this double over that time? There's no guarantee it's going to happen. It could come in a little bit less. Heck, it could come even more. We don't know what the next 10 years hold. We don't know what any 10-year period holds. But if we can have that longer term focus and say, how can I double this over the next 10 years? And then pull some money out for the next 5 as income and double it again. If we can have that long-term view, that's going to make for a great retirement plan as long as we have enough of those safe assets to provide income so we can leave this alone, let the stock market do the heavy lifting, and in the meantime, use this nice rule of 72 to understand conceptually what rate of return am I going to need and not take a huge amount of risk above that. What rate of return am I going to need to get these investments to double so that way we have plenty of future income for our retirement needs?